Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mechthild Rostofer and I'm the Director for Sustainability, Outlooks and Technologies at the International Energy Agency. Warmly welcome to this event, which is organized by SEM's Electric Vehicle Initiative. Let me start by thanking Chile for hosting such an excellent ministerial meeting and to all EVI members for their trust in the IEA to coordinate your activities. We are gathered here today to hear about some exciting announcements from existing EVI members and partners, but also an announcement from a new EVI member, and I'm very excited about this. But first, please allow me to take a step back, and I will leave the floor to our co-lead, China, for some scene-setting remarks. The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to join you online at today's event, 10 years of EVI, entering the decade of electric drive. Since CEM 1 in 2010, China has been working together with other CEM members and International Energy Agency to build EVI into an important platform for global exchanges and cooperation in electric vehicles. The past decade has witnessed fast growth in EV globally. In 2010, the global EV market was still in its infancy, with only 15,000 EV ownership. In 2019, global EV ownership hit 7.2 million. Global EV sales grew from less than 8,000 in 2010 to 2 million in 2019. EV technologies have witnessed giant leaps in the past decade. EV range has jumped from less than 150 kilometers in 2010 to 300 to 500 kilometers or even higher today. The cost of power batteries has dropped further from 5 to 6 yuan per watt hour in 2010 to only 1 yuan today. The charging time for EV has shortened and ultra-fast charging has been possible for some. New technologies have promoted EV commercialization globally. More importantly, over the past 10 years, countries have reached agreement on the future of vehicle electrification. Driven by technology innovation and guided by preferential policies, electric vehicles have grown from something new into a reliable partner in people's life. EVI has witnessed remarkable progress over 10 years. The global EV outlook has become an important reference for the EV sector. Shanghai International EV Demo Zone plays a significant role in the early stage technology guidance, application of new business format, and public promotion. EV 30 at 30 campaign and PCP have received international support and facilitate application of EV around the world. Today, we are going to launch a Drive to Zero campaign to back electrification of medium and heavy-duty vehicles. The COVID-19 pandemic reminds us once again that we are one community with a shared future. Only with synergy can we stand the test of global risks and challenges. The Chinese government highly values the role of CEM and EVI and look forward to policy exchanges and pragmatic cooperation with international partners to contribute to the development of EV in the next decade.
To achieve the objectives under the UNFCCC framework, a raised ambition within the transport sector will be crucial, as almost 25% of the total global energy-related emissions come from this sector. So looking ahead to this decade and beyond, let me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Fatih Birol, IEA's Executive Director, who will share key messages from IEA's recent report on net zero by 2050, a roadmap for the global energy sector, and what we need to accomplish over the next decade to close the gap. Fatih, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, I want to start by expressing my gratitude to Chile for hosting such an excellent meeting and to all SAM members for their trust in IEA hosting the SAM Secretariat in our premises. Thank you very much for that. We are working very closely with the SAM Secretariat, and we are delighted to work again very closely with the able leader of SAM Secretariat, Mr. Dandona. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity and share IEA's most recent analysis, namely our 2050 net zero report we published only a few days ago. In our analysis, we came up with a view of the world, how the global energy system needs to transform itself, what does it bring to economy, to jobs, to how the fuel mix changes, and we made over 400 milestones for the governments to design their policies between now and 2050. So one of the key, I should say, milestone is about electric cars. As we all know, today the share of electric cars in the total car sales is about 5%, even though it was a breaking record number last year, 5%. And according to our net zero roadmap and the milestone about electric cars, this share needs to go to 60% by 2030, from 5% today to 60% in 2030. And in our latest global EV outlook, we see that the fleet of electric cars will increase significantly with the current policies in place, but there is still a significant gap. What we expect in our EV outlook and what needs to happen to reach our net zero targets as far as the EV sales are concerned. What we would like to see is 5% of today becomes 60% in 2030 in order to reach our climate goals. Of course, electric cars are one part of the puzzle, but it is a very important part of the puzzle, and it is the reason we believe that there is a need for bold actions from governments to support the penetration of electric cars around the world. We at the IEA are fully committed to leading those efforts, and as coordinators of the Electric Vehicles Initiative, we look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we as the EVI coordinators are very proud to be working with both governments, industries, stakeholders through the EVI initiative, and welcome you all to contact the Secretariat of the IEA if you are interested in following or joining EVI's activities.
As we start to move out of this life-altering global pandemic and turn again to the next life-changing global challenge, addressing climate change at a pace to be net zero by 2050, I think, as we've all heard during the last few days of SEM, there is an urgency to do more and to do it faster. We know that electrification of transportation will play an essential role in the net zero future. This was reaffirmed by the IEA's very recent Net Zero by 2050 report. And through efforts like the EVI Global EV Outlook, we know momentum is building. Consumers are starting to demand zero emissions vehicles. Automakers and other manufacturers are expanding EV options. And major corporations in Canada and around the world are beginning to electrify their fleets. All this while governments at all levels are bringing in ambitious regulatory and fiscal measures to stimulate this ZEV rollout. Some have even set targets for ZEV deployment that are more ambitious than EVI's 30 at 30 campaign. After a decade of rapid growth, in 2020, global EV deployment hit the 10 million mark, yet that represents less than 5% of global car sales. According to the IEA's Net Zero by 2050 report, global zero-emission vehicle sales need to reach 60% by 2030. So it's clear we need to move from setting ambitious targets to taking concrete actions. And today, we need to harness this growing momentum and challenge the public and private sector to do more. Through the Electric Vehicle Initiative Call to Action, we're working to showcase the importance of setting ambitious targets backed by real-world actions, establishing strategic partnerships with industry sectors across the supply chain, from batteries to vehicles, fostering greater electrification of the freight sector, growing EVI membership from all levels of government, taking action on awareness and infrastructure, and providing up-to-date information and analysis to support policy development and investment decisions. Canada is already taking action on a number of these issues, and I know many of you are as well. I also know we are up to closing the gap between our individual country targets, aspirational goals, and real-world deployment. This sounds like a lot because it is a lot, but we need to take this unprecedented moment to harness our combined will, expertise, and financial resources to forge a new path to a cleaner, more resilient transportation future. I'm confident we can succeed, and I believe that we can do it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you in this really important call to action. I'm Claire O'Neill. I'm the Head of Climate and Energy at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And I'll say a bit in a moment about how the organisations like mine can really bring the private sector together to help achieve these important ambitions and plan the actions that we need. But first of all, I wanted to start by congratulating all the supporters of this campaign and the IEA for doing so effectively this role over the past few years of identifying one of the most important challenges we face in the decarbonisation space, namely the electrification of light transport, setting a clear target. I think the EV 30 at 30 was an excellent statement of where we needed to go, attracting signatories and continuing to address the barriers that drive the action that we need. But we know that we now have to do even more. We know that adoption rates, whilst increasing, continue to remain below the target levels we want to see. And of course, with the superb piece of analysis that the IEA put out this week on the pathway to a 1.5 degree future, we see that the target for electrification has now doubled. So we basically need to put our foot down on the accelerator even more and raise the speed of progress to twice where we have been. And I wanted to say a word about the World Business Council for Sustainable Development and our role. For those that don't know us, we were set up alongside the COP process at the Rio Earth Summit, a place for the world's most ambitious sustainable companies to come together, to collaborate, to work together to solve problems. And results have been things like the Greenhouse Gas Protocol that we co-wrote, or the Alliance to End Plastics Waste. We focus very much on the how of sustainability. And we also work across industries, across value chains, and across regions. And I think what's so fascinating is in the mobility space, and mobility is one of our most important project areas, we have this unique ability to work with all players in the value chains to really create the transition that we need. For example, we're talking currently with our deep pools of membership in the OEM sectors, in the energy sectors, and in the utility space to really focus intensively on the barriers to charging rollout. We know from government pledges that this is something that is always coming, but if you then talk to the operators on the ground or indeed the grid providers, there are constant issues that need to be resolved, and we think that we can play a role in that. We're also addressing a number of the technology gaps that are holding us back in terms of the progression to a more digital driving future, and working with our excellent members on that challenge. And we're looking very strongly at the messaging, the policy and advocacy messaging that we can collectively deliver, both to increase the level of ambition at the national level, but also to support the policymakers and the decision makers further down the decision tree. As we've heard today, many of those local and city and regional authorities are the ones who ultimately end up really driving this implementation. So we at the WBCSD and many other membership organisations are here to support the transition. We absolutely applaud you for what you are doing, and we are committed to delivering this electrified future. So please keep up the pace, please keep asking for what we can do, and please keep involving our groups, membership groups like ours, and our members in the decision-making process, because I think we need to work together to get to this low carbon future. Thank you.
Next on my list, and before ending this CEM 12 event, I want to hand over to a country that wishes to make an announcement here today.
It is an honor to join all of you today. Let me start by sharing some great news. It's a new day here in America, and the United States is back in the CEM Electric Vehicles Initiative. President Biden has set incredibly ambitious goals to put America on an irreversible path to a net zero carbon economy. And he's committed that America and Americans will walk the walk. That's the idea behind the American Jobs Plan, which calls for historic transformative investments that will empower us to lead the clean energy revolution. And electric vehicles are a central piece of that vision. In the American Jobs Plan, President Biden proposes $174 billion in investments. That's billion with a B, 174 billion investments in the EV market. This investment includes grant incentive programs for state and local government and the private sector to build out a national network of 500,000 EV chargers while promoting strong labor training and installation standards. The American Jobs Plans will give consumers and businesses incentives to buy EVs, including light-duty vehicles, buses, medium and heavy-duty trucks, all while ensuring these vehicles are affordable, manufactured by workers with good, well-paying jobs. And we will invest to build out the most advanced battery technology in America, technology that will allow EVs to be cost competitive with current cars and trucks while costing much less to operate and to maintain. It's the kind of vision that makes me so excited to also say that the U.S. will be hosting the 13th Clean Energy Ministerial in 2022. And why, again, I'm happy to say that we're rejoining EVI today. EVI has been a model CEM initiative in many ways. First, EVI engages with cities in the private sector, the folks on the front lines doing the work day in and day out to have this EV transformation. Secondly, EVI has partnered with the IEA on the Global EV Outlook, one of the agency's most frequently downloaded reports, and looked across the world for definitive numbers on where we're at, what progress we've seen on EV markets. And third, through its campaigns, EVI has been at the forefront of CEM initiatives in setting rigorous targets that capture and accelerate national ambition, bottom up for EV deployment. So we're truly energized here in the US to rejoin the EVI effort. And we also know, and we should be honest, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work for all of us ahead on the EV front throughout the world, and huge opportunities ahead for all of us. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak and to be with you all today. And I'll see you all and look forward to seeing you all in the United States for CEM 13 next year. Thank you.
This is fantastic news. Many thanks to Dave, many thanks to the US delegation for these very positive news. The US decision to rejoin the EVI means that we now have 16 members under this initiative, and the number of partners are increasing. We have several companies joining our efforts today as well. We at the IEA, we will support EVI with the implementation of its efforts and expand this platform to include new governments, industries, and civil societies, as well as other international organizations to close the gap. It's not a race against each other. It's a battle against time. Thank you all for joining here today.